Hello, and welcome to the NIL Edge, the show where the people shaping the future of name, image, and likeness talk about how they're doing it, what's working, and how they're looking to improve NIL offerings for student athletes. If you're inside an athletic department, a brand trying to navigate smarter athlete first partnerships, a student athlete, or the parent of a student athlete, this is the space for you. Each episode, we talk to NIL directors, brand leaders, and other innovators pushing the NIL conversation forward. Our goal is to share success stories, equip you with ideas, and create a trusted space for NIL strategy, education, and alignment. The show is produced in partnership with NIL Newsstand and Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern. I'm your host, Sterling Randle. I come from the world of strategic communications and public relations, and before that, I worked in collegiate athletic departments like Southern Miss, Little Rock, and SMU. So I've seen firsthand how critical communications, compliance, and brand building work in today's NIL era. Now I work with brands and organizations at the intersection of sports and strategy, helping them navigate change, protect their reputations, and connect athletes with fans in meaningful ways. Today, we're joined by Joe Shepard of South Carolina. Without further ado, let's do it. Today, we have Joe Shepard from the University of South Carolina. Joe is the Assistant Athletic Director for NIL Strategy and Execution, where he oversees the infrastructure, educational programming, and execution of all NIL initiatives. He does so with decades of leadership and experience in sports, namely at various levels of professional baseball. Joe, how the heck are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited. I feel lame saying this because I say this to everybody that we talk to, but I'm so excited for this conversation and to learn a little bit more about what you do and what you guys are doing at South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for thinking of us here. It's been nice to hear from the other people you've interviewed and learn something new with each of them. So hopefully I can do the same.
I'm sure you will. I want to start off first. Tell us a little bit about your background. Compared to everybody else, I would say yours is a little non-traditional compared to everyone else that we've talked to. And tell me how you got to South Carolina.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I was going to point that out, the non-traditional piece, because I come from not college athletics at all prior to this. So my entire professional career was spent in minor league baseball until I made the change. I spent 10 years in minor league baseball. I played baseball growing up, went into college playing baseball. That ended very quickly. So I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the college life and then just pursue the profession. My uncle worked in minor league baseball for 20 plus years as a general manager. So I saw him doing it. I saw the passion he had for it. So that was like the kind of path I felt I wanted to take. Moved to Savannah, Georgia in 2012 after I completed my degree back home at SUNY Cortland, small state school in New York. And I spent 4 years there, and then our team relocated. We moved here to Columbia, so that's how I ended up in Columbia. We were lucky enough to open a brand new stadium, which was a super cool experience to be a part of. Segra Park, we opened in 2016 as the Columbia Fireflies. And the big claim to fame there is our team was the first stop for Tim Tebow in his professional baseball career. So that was pretty cool. That was an experience. I always tell people I never really anticipated having that many grown people cry in front of me when they didn't get somebody's autograph, but it happened. So the time just came I was just ready to move on to something else, find a new challenge, new opportunity. I had spent 6 years running our ticket department there with the Fireflies. So really didn't have any intention of staying in sport. Quite frankly, thought I was going to be getting out of sports, mostly because I was looking to not be working games all of the time. Minor league baseball is a grind. You're working all the games. So it taught me a lot, but I was just ready for the next step. But luckily came across an opportunity. The timing just happened to work out. Came across an opportunity with a company called Altius Sports Partners. At the time, I had not heard of Altius. They were still quite new. This is June of 22 is when I came across it. I started in September of 22 with Altius, and I was part of the GM program with the company, and I was at South Carolina. And the draw for everybody involved was my role was focused on sourcing deals, finding opportunities for athletes. And I had 6 years in the community working with businesses, all of those types of things. So it was a good dynamic there. Spent 2.5 years at ASP. Absolutely loved it there. It was wonderful. Great people, super, super smart people, taught me a ton. but it was time to come in house to South Carolina. Things had changed. We're talking now, beginning of this year, the conversations really started kicking into high gear. And by June, I was internal in my current role now. So here we are, still doing the same thing. The joke I tell everybody is I reported my first day of work with South Carolina and went and sat at the same location I'd been sitting for 2.5 years. So my mom asked me if I met anybody new on my first day, and I had to remind her that, Mom, I've been here for 2.5 years. So it's all the same people. But yeah, happy to be here. Really enjoy working here, this department, and helping our Gamecock athletes as much as I can.
That's awesome. Okay, we'll just jump right into it. Obviously, at South Carolina, you've had a plethora of high-profile athletes that have come and made their mark at the university, made their mark in the NCAA, and then have made their mark in the professional world that they now play in. Those athletes have had opportunities come to them while they're at South Carolina, with sponsorship from Bose to Crocs to Beats to Under Armour to Bojangles. How have you and the university helped propel these athletes with their deals to get more attention to them?
So a lot of time it's different with each one. Each of those circumstances is different. Some of those predated me. Some I've been involved in. In almost all of those circumstances, there's been a few different parties involved. Obviously, our top end athletes are working with agents, and we're lucky that our athletes are working with some of the best agents in the space. So it's working with them, communicating with them, and then just being wherever we're needed in that process. Internally is where we'll fit in. If we have to help get the scheduling done, if we have to get the facilities taken care of, making sure that they're available, making sure they know where to go, when to be there, all of that. In some circumstances, it's getting the connection with the athlete and the agent. If something comes straight to us or we find something, and getting the opportunity to them. So really each circumstance is different, and kind of our role will vary, and we'll just help out wherever we need to, just to make sure that things get done properly. We never want to have to go backwards. We don't want the day of the shoot to come and no one actually checked to see that location was available. So that has happened. And sometimes the outside entities don't necessarily understand an athlete's schedule, the classwork, the training, all of that sort of stuff. So getting everyone on the same page with that, and we can kind of help with that sort of stuff, being boots on the ground here, where an agent might not necessarily know what the facility usage looks like, things like that. So everyone plays a role in each circumstance. It can be different. So just wherever we're needed to make sure things get done. And
I'm sure your experience in minor league baseball helps you with figuring things out on the fly.
Yeah, it's nice now. I no longer well, I guess rain does come into play still sometimes with some activations. We actually just had to move one indoors this week with the hurricane. So yeah, rain is still a thing, but I no longer have to tarp anything. So that's nice. But yeah, that taught me to be fluid, be able to adjust and pivot whenever you have to, for sure.
Like all good hosts, when I was doing my research, I just Googled South Carolina NIL. And that brought me to the NIL page for the university. Was checking out some of the inbound opportunities that come up. Can you tell me a little bit about those? The one that piqued my interest was like the shout out video. So like the cameo style video. Yeah. Do you guys get a lot of inbound NIL interest through that website and through those shout outs?
Yeah, so that's funny. That's the one you call out. We just got one of those yesterday that we're working through right now. It might be the first one for a video shout out, I think. I could be wrong. But we get a good chunk of them. And really, the thought process behind that form is just another avenue for us to get leads and for people in our community to connect to our athletes. We want to have as many of those as we can. You know, you're sitting at a game and you're watching an athlete play, they're having a good game, and you're like, maybe I'm curious. You search their roster page, and there's a button right there. It takes them right to it. We link to it on our Gamecocks online app. Just as many ways possible to make it easy as possible to start that connection, whether it's a business or an individual. We've had those shout outs. We've had one I vividly remember early on. We had a birthday party, I think it was a 7-year-old's birthday party. They wanted some soccer players to come out, and they sent it via that form. And it got done, and the athletes went, and they had a great time. They got fed, so they were happy, and they got paid. So it was a really cool opportunity. But yeah, we use that form. We get a good bit of it. It's just another avenue for us, again, just to find opportunities, leads, and then whenever something comes in through there, we make sure we have a conversation with them. We vet them properly, just making sure it's legitimate. It's something that's good for our athletes from the jump, and then we kind of pursue it from there.
On those inbound opportunities, are they majority local? Are they majority one and done? Or have some of them blossomed into longer lasting relationships with not just the athlete, but the athletic department as a whole?
The majority of those typically are your one-off smaller deals for sure. I do know that some have blossomed, the athlete building relationships with the people they're working with, whether it's just a personal relationship or maybe it's a business relationship that requires a longer partnership. But those typically are smaller, the local ones. We have had a few bigger ones that have come through there. And we rope in our MMR partner, Gamecock Sports Properties, who we have a great relationship with, if they're looking to form a longer term partnership that involves sponsorship activation, all those kind of things into the stadium and things like that.
Since you brought them up, we can, I wanted to ask you about this a little bit later, but we can talk about them now. How do your partners like Gamecock Sport Properties and your other NIL partners, can you talk about them a little bit and how they help you succeed? I know in our conversation before the show, you talked about how, they're baking in NIL deals when they're, signing deals with companies. Can you tell me about how those partners help you guys, not only you succeed, but your student athletes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are, our GSP team is starting to do a really good job baking in NIL into all of their sponsorships. And frankly, in this era where we are now, it kind of required. I think you're missing the point if you aren't putting in some NIL dollars to bring back to the athletes, mostly just because the engagement that it gets. Their stuff goes live via all the official channels and the boosted content. So it gets the athletes out in front of more people than your typical deal. And just leveraging those opportunities just creates more opportunities for our student athletes. And they've done a really good job with that. And then we work really closely with them when it comes to finding the right fits on the athlete side. They'll come to us. Sometimes I'm in the meetings with them. If I'm not in that meeting, they'll come to us like, hey, this is kind of what the brand, the business is looking for. Who do we think is a good fit? And that's where we rely on our relationships we have with the athletes here in Gamecock NIL and trying to find those right fits and make it work.
We talked about kind of the caliber of athlete that's at South Carolina. Obviously, you think of some big athletes like Aaliyah Boston and Spencer Rattler that have come in. Obviously, each student athlete that comes into South Carolina is different, right? Mm-hmm. One thing that we've noticed a lot during these conversations that we're having with people is everybody always says like, oh, we want to make sure we meet the student athlete where they are. Yeah. What does that look like to you guys? Obviously, some students already have agents, others don't. How do you go through that process when a student athlete first gets to campus?
So we try to get in front of every team in beginning of the year meetings, which take place typically in August. If for some reason it doesn't come together, then we just try to get in front of them at some point early on in that first semester. Particularly for the transfers and those new students, so that one, they know who we are, where to find us, what we do. Here's the support for you when that time comes. We have freshmen that do want to meet with us right away. And if they do meet with us right away, a lot of times it's just getting to know them, building that relationship. Because a lot of times we tell them, hey, you adjust to the city, figure out where you enjoy going, places in the area you'd like to pursue opportunity-wise. Because we have them fill out an athlete interest form that kind of requires them to answer some of those questions. Where are you shopping? Where are you eating? All of those kinds of things. And if you've been here for 2 weeks, you don't have an answer yet. So we encourage them, take some time with it. We don't make them fill it out right away. We want it to be worthwhile. We want them to be intentional with it because it's very helpful for us, helping us go pursue opportunities. But also if things come inbound, we go back through those lists and we'll find the athletes that have put that as one of their interests, or they indicated they eat at this restaurant all the time, so it's a natural fit for them. So we want them to be intentional with it, take their time with it. But when it comes to building those relationships, meeting them where they are, when we sit down with an athlete, they might know NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and that's all they know. Okay, great. That's where we're going to start. They might sit down and say, I've had 6 deals. I want a 7th deal. Okay, that's where we're going to start. Wherever that is, we take it from there and we go. But it all starts with building a relationship and building a trust, and making sure they understand the support they have when it comes to this. Here, we tell them you're never going to be in a position where you have to do something on your own in terms of someone sends you an offer. All right, do I have to make a decision? No one's here to help me, or I have an activation. How do I do this? Where do I go? What can I wear? We'll be there through that process, and help them as much as we can. Of course, they have to tell us these things when they pop up. We can't get our hands on each deal and help them through everything unless we know. But we just work to build that relationship, and then once that relationship is built, it just continues. And we also make sure that we're still staying in touch, even if there's nothing on the plate for them, if you will, in terms of NIL. It's just staying in touch with them. Hey, shooting them a text message. They had a good game last night. That was an awesome goal, so on and so forth, those kinds of things. Stopping by practice, saying hello to them, just being visible and letting them know you're around and that you support them even beyond the NIL part of this, letting them know you're truly invested in who they are and their success. It goes a long way, and they open up with you more. You get to know more about them, and it just builds that relationship and that trust.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Is there a specific instance where that's happened, where meeting with the student athletes, you found that they have a special interest, or there's something involved with their family that then maybe an inbound something has come in, or there had already been a partner at the university where you put them together to say like, hey, let's meet these synergies together to help not only the business, but the student athlete as well?
There absolutely have, and I'm trying to, now you put me on the spot. So I guess one opportunity, we're working with this one's top of mind because it's ongoing right now. We're working with the police department here. They're starting an initiative around having a stronger female officer base. They're calling it 30 by 30, 30% female officers by 2030. So we wanted that to be an authentic thing. So we went back through our athlete interest forms and found student athletes, particularly female student athletes, who have law enforcement in their family. And we had seven or eight that had direct brother, sister, mom, dad. So they were immediate. Okay, perfect. We're gonna put them as an opportunity, as a potential fit for this deal. So that's one example of that. Certainly not the only one. A lot of times, a lot of the deals, athletes will come to us talking about places they have a passion for, and we kind of handle it going out and trying to find it for them, things like that. So just the more we know, the more we can create those opportunities.
I want to kind of go back just a little bit and kind of mash the question that I just asked you and then the one before together. So let's say that this inbound opportunity comes. Can you walk me through the steps that it goes through, like with your office, and then what other offices, to make sure the athletes are prepared for what they need to wear, like talking points, what they're going to say, what's provided by the brand, and then what is provided by your specific NIL team, and then the athletic department?
Yep. So we tell, if it comes inbound in that first conversation with that brand or business, we tell them we'll be involved A through Z every step of the way to help them. Because keeping in mind, these people have jobs outside of, like, this is just one part of what they're doing. So we just want to make sure that the process keeps moving, and that's kind of where we can help with that. That first conversation with an inbound opportunity is understanding their vision, their goals. What are they looking to do? The whole scale of what's the commitment, what's the offer going to look like, what's compensation, like really just vetting that whole process. And that's just the first conversation. Sometimes it requires more than one. They're gathering information just as much as we are in that first conversation. But once we get to a point where we're comfortable in terms of what they're looking for deliverable wise, compensation wise, what type of athlete, what kind of criteria they might be looking for, we'll take that information, build it. We always like to give them options. We'll send them a list with as much information as we can. They might request certain information. Sometimes it's just hometown, what year they are, what sport they are, the basic stuff. But they want someone who's really engaging with their content. We'll pull engagement rates and have that information formed so they have an idea of how much people are interacting with a particular athlete on social media. And then just go from there. We can provide them with where their followers are coming from. We've had times where someone's like, I want an athlete with 20,000 followers, and then we send them some names, and they might all be from the West Coast, but your business is local here in Columbia. You've got one location, it's in Columbia, South Carolina. Why are we looking for one athlete with 20,000 followers when 18,000 of them probably are on the West Coast and never coming here, when we could get 4 athletes at 5,000 that are from Columbia and probably have a follower base that know what your store is already and also live in that city. So just working through that whole process. And then once we get the narrowed down on the athlete itself, that's when we'll start pursuing the opportunity with the athlete, bring it to them, sit down with them, talk them through it, make sure they're fully aware of everything they're going to have to be doing, the time commitment, when it might be, all of those things. And as it gets closer, we dive into the smaller details. What can you wear? What can't you wear? All of those kinds of things. I'm very thankful now we've added another staff member here, Larissa Dollar is her name, very appropriate name for the NIL space. She's been very helpful. She's been incredible and doing a lot of activation stuff with our athletes, helping them at the site, helping them record, all of that kind of stuff, really wherever we're needed. But she's done a really good job with that. So we just, at that point, just helping the whole process just keeps going. It's just everyone staying in tune, getting it scheduled, getting it done, and then just following up after the fact too. We try to have our athletes provide a personal touch too when we work with particular partners, and a thank you note. It goes a long way. A handwritten thank you note to the brand or business for working with them. It's just a professional thing to do, letting them know that they appreciate the opportunity, all of those kinds of things. So a lot of different layers to it, a lot of conversations. It can take time just because of all the different pieces. But that's where we kind of just fit in, and we make sure we have the checklist, checking each box one by one as we go.
Now, we talked about meeting student athletes where they are, and it sounds like from your conversations, you have to meet brands where they are too. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a multi-part question. How often does it come in where they say, oh, I want to work with X, Y, and Z, and you're like, actually, you want to work with A, B, and C, not X, Y, and Z? And then how do you go about educating them? Is that preemptive that you guys are doing? Are you going out through, your maybe like your CRM list and saying, hey, these are the businesses that have already worked with South Carolina student athletes or the university and the athletic department as a whole. If you want to work with a student athlete, this is how you do it. I guess the better question is, how do you go about educating the brands and the businesses that want to work with you, how to work best with student athletes?
Yep. That's so we try to treat it, ever since I moved internal, we're working really to try to treat it much more like the sales process, if you will. And what I mean by that is we're working on ways in which we can get in front of businesses. I say in bulk. We're like a chamber event. We're working on getting the local Columbia chamber. And then that gives us the opportunity to potentially speak to 5, 10, 15, 20 people that are decision makers all at one time, to educate them on NIL, probably eliminate misconceptions on every NIL deal is $50,000 in a new Range Rover. People eliminate themselves from this process without really even knowing what they can actually do. We held an NIL summit last spring with partners, some that were already involved in the space, some that we haven't worked with. And it was very educational, and it turned into opportunities. It kind of like turns the light bulb on. Oh, okay, there is a chance for me. I can work with an athlete. So educating in that way, reaching out, just trying to schedule meetings and talk with businesses one-on-one. We don't necessarily go out and try and turn it into a sales pitch right off the jump. It's educating them, because more times than not, if they're willing to take that meeting to learn about what NIL is, they probably already have an interest in working with our athletes. And then once they understand what they can do and the scope of what they can do and what it might require compensation wise, all of those things, it typically moves forward and turns into something which we can present to our athletes. So it's just a lot of education, is being strategic, and who we're going to talk to. When I originally started, I was first leaning into just people I knew from my previous life in minor league baseball. But then I quickly was like, well, some of these places might be of no interest to our student athletes. So that's where the interest form really kind of took off. And then letting that kind of guide us with a lot of our targeted outreach, who we're going and educating, all of that, because we know that those are businesses our athletes already are interested in. It's just a matter of creating those opportunities for them. And the education piece is huge. Education is one of our pillars of success here, both athletes, but also externally for brands and businesses.
I guess you kind of already answered this question by saying that you guys are looking for external partners that align with the interests of your student athletes. But are there any other particular qualities that you guys look for when you are approaching brands or businesses locally or nationally?
We want to make sure we're vetting them properly. Anything inbound, anything we're going and pursuing, having a pulse on what's their reputation, locally, regionally, so on and so forth. Because we tell athletes, once you partner with a brand, you put a post up with that brand. I mean, to an outsider, you now are part of that brand.
Mm-hmm.
If they've been in the news and they had some controversies or things like that, people are now going to tie you to that, and then it might fill up your comments, and people might start talking about that in your comments. So we just want athletes to understand what comes along with a partnership. A partnership is that, and people will see you as one thing at that point when you are endorsing them. So making sure they understand that, and that's on us to make sure that we are doing the proper vetting, having understanding, and having been in the city now for about 10 years. You learn things about places and how there might be some issues here and there. We haven't really encountered any of those things, thankfully, but they can happen. So it's being on top of those things, and then taking that information to our athletes and empowering them. We want to make sure our athletes feel empowered with all the decisions they make. We want them to have all of the information. We want them to be confident in the decision they're going to make, and feel that they're making the right choice based off their own personal values and how they want to be viewed publicly.
On that note, is there one athlete right now or a few athletes at South Carolina that are really taking advantage of NIL opportunities by aligning themselves with either initiatives or brands that really align with what they personally value?
Yeah, we've obviously our top tier athletes and you always got to make sure that they're doing wonderful. We have Eli Ellis, who's a freshman here, who came in incredibly experienced with content. He's already top 15 in the country. His follower counts across all of his platforms. Like, he's truly incredible with the stuff he's already doing before he even got here. We're learning as much from him as we could teach him, quite frankly. Lenoris, the starting quarterback. Obviously, women's basketball here, they are very good at what they do. They've got a wonderful program and obviously support system with finding opportunities there. But we have athletes across all our sports like that. We've got track athlete, national champion Jamesia Ford. She's got a shoe deal, and she's got multiple other deals that she has done. She's got a wonderful personality, so finding opportunities for her to get that personality out there. You're not on TV every Saturday, so people don't necessarily know who you are, but she's a national champion, aspiring to be an Olympian one day. So getting her those opportunities. She's got a great follower count. Victoria Harris, she's one of our volleyball players. That was one of the cooler opportunities that we put together. Victoria and I sat down every Wednesday for 3.5, 4 months and put together a camp that she ran this summer. She's from the area, so she wanted to give back locally to the younger student athletes, and I give her all of the credit. She hustled. She did everything she needed to do and beyond to help promote it, to get it out into the public, and she ran back-to-back sessions on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. Had 51, I think, total kids at the camp, broken up by age groups. And she did a phenomenal job. I was in the morning session with her. I helped get the kids all registered, all of that kind of stuff, and just watched the camp play out. And you would have thought she'd done it 10 times already. She just did a wonderful job with it. And we're kind of trying to replicate that now with other student athletes is camps, clinics, putting on those kinds of things. Once we kind of know how to go about putting it together, which we know that process now, we can do them anywhere. They can be local. They can do it back in their hometown. So those are opportunities for our athletes as well. And then our softball team has done a really nice job embracing NIL. The coaching staff has embraced it. And we had a really cool opportunity, one that I really liked because it came directly from their team success in between their regional and super regional this past season. The local bookstore wanted to celebrate them. So they brought out 4 of the girls and they signed autographs for 2 hours at the bookstore. And awesome. It was a quick turnaround. We did it in a few days, just gathering schedules, getting the date set, all of those things. And then it was good to go. They sat there. Girls came in. I vividly remember one little girl came in her jersey. She wore number 16, which our first baseman, Gold Glover, Ari Rohde, wears number 16. She signed her jersey for. Just really cool experience for them. And it's one of those things where athletes that reminding them, it doesn't matter which sport you play here, people look up to you. The younger kids look up to you. You're a Division I athlete at the University of South Carolina. That matters. It doesn't matter what sport you play. They see you as an idol in some ways. So making sure they understand that and act accordingly is important for us, and letting them know just how much it matters when they make these appearances and do these kinds of things. With
events like that and helping these student athletes set up their own camps, what have been the major takeaways from them that you guys have instilled in every other activation moving forward? And have there been any like failures that you guys have learned from that you make sure, like, oh, let's make sure this doesn't happen, or we need to make sure we do it this way next time?
It's all, I think communication and making sure everyone is on the same page. Not necessarily camp related, but we've had scenarios in the past where I think that person has that information, but you don't double check that person has that information, and then they didn't have that information. So you kind of have to go backwards to go forwards again. So like learning from any mistakes. I mean, this is one of those spaces that if the first few years something would happen, you have typically when you have a job, you've got some sort of experience from the past to rely on to educate yourself on what decision to make moving forward. You don't with this in a lot of scenarios, and it makes it fun and terrifying all at the same time. But we're getting to a point now where we have proof of concept and times where we've done something one way. All right, actually, I wish we did it this way. So just learning from those and adjusting, figuring out what did we do that didn't work necessarily, and just moving forward in the right way. And most times it comes down to just communication, because there's so many different people that can be involved with just one activation. A director of ops on that side, someone to unlock the building, making sure the lights are, just really everything. There's a lot of different factors you have to bring in and think about to make sure things run smoothly.
I want to put you in a scenario. I want to put you on the other side of the table. Let's say you're a brand. We'll do two scenarios: a nationally like recognized brand, and maybe a local or regional brand that's specific to either Columbia or just South Carolina in general. What's a recommendation or a tip you would give to that brand wanting to work NIL deals into their marketing plan?
So being authentic, what kind of story can you tell? I think that's a big part of it. When you can tell an authentic story, whether you can find an athlete that's that type of fit, I think that's a big part of it. Thinking outside of the box, that's probably comes from me in my minor league sports background, where the weirder the promotion is, typically people more engaging it is. But not doing the cookie cutter things, having fun with it, creating content that can be funny, engaging, leaning into the player's personality, leaning into their nicknames, whatever that is, finding different things like that, and taking on those angles. And that's where we can help them with that process. And getting them to understand there's value across a bunch of all of the sports. It doesn't have to be the same one or two sports, same one or two athletes. We can find athletes that can be a fit once we know exactly what it is that you're looking for across any different sport. And sometimes it's an athlete they're not thinking of that creates that most authentic scenario for them. That's the most authentic fit. So just working with them and getting them to see that vision, if you will. We don't want to completely change what they're trying to do. We want to find what works best for them. But sometimes it does require a little bit of pivoting on what they're looking to do based off what athletes we have to offer them that could be those best fits for them.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for these last couple of questions, I want to kind of move. These are more quick hitter, lightning round, if you will, more type questions. What are some trends that you have seen this last year that you think are gonna have a larger role in the next 2 or 3 years?
I think going back to the authentic partnership thing, I think athletes are getting more focusing more on the authentic deals and connections, whereas I think in the past, maybe it's just like, all right, deal done, deal done, deal done. But I think they're actually interested now in finding really authentic opportunities, whether that be a lot of these athletes come from a place of faith. So finding opportunities that fit that. The self-care, the fitness, those opportunities are exploding and only going to continue to grow. Mental health, all of those types of things, like all the awareness things, I think those are only going to continue to grow. I think there's still a lot of opportunity in the nonprofit space. Mm-hmm. we're working closely. I'll take a time to shout out a company called Impact Player. I've been working with them for a couple of years now. They've kind of just, their company's just now really starting to take off. They do a lot of nonprofit opportunities, and not necessarily paid opportunities for athletes, but it allows them to create content, but also do something that's authentic to them and that they care about. So I think those types of opportunities are only going to continue to grow. And then just getting athletes seen more as influencers. I think a lot of times people think we're going to go work with an athlete, but really the athlete is the influencer at the same time. And Larissa, who comes, my number 2, comes from a PR background. So she has that mindset. She knows what they're looking for with influencers. So, and she's like, athletes are the same thing. They're doing the same things. So getting the brands and businesses to see that. And then the last piece, I think, really trend-wise is continuing to gather data on return on investment for businesses, market rates, how much athletes are getting paid for things, and having more data as we continue to grow and understand the space more will only be helpful for brands and businesses, helping them find solutions to what they're looking for, and also helping our athletes at the same time. So the data and the connections, the authenticity to deals, I think are some of the biggest things that are trending.
What's could be a deal that you've been a part of, could be one that you saw somewhere else. What's one of your favorite deals that you've seen in the last couple of years?
Victoria's camp is one of those, just because of the work that went into it, and then just seeing it happen and seeing just the influence that she had on those campers. It's just that's what NIL is about, quite frankly. And I think if more people saw those types of deals, they'd be like, okay, yeah, this NIL is not this bad thing that some can make it out to be. That deal was fantastic. We did a t-shirt. So this one's pretty cool for me because it was the first of its kind. We have a partnership with Athletes Thread, who does group licensing stuff, and they can do like custom t-shirts, cool moments that happen. Ari Rhodey, who I mentioned a little while ago, set the home run record for South Carolina this spring on a Friday night during the SC tournament, the single season home run record here. I sent a message to my contact at Athletes Fred Frankie, who herself was an athlete at South Carolina. So she gives me permission to text her at all hours with all sorts of ideas. So I take advantage of it. I said, hey, Ari just set the home run record. I'd love to get a t-shirt design made for her. We had the t-shirt design done. I sent it to Ari. It got approved. It was live in 48 hours for sale. And then at the regionals, at super regionals, I saw more than one person wearing that t-shirt. So that was a really cool one. I was like, wow, that's really cool to see that actually come to life and people buying it and all of those kinds of things. So that was great. A couple years ago, the Under Armour campaign we did here, I think it was fall of 23. It was 8 softball players and 8 baseball players. It was a massive production, one of the bigger productions I've been a part of. It was each team had a full day of shooting. It was on their off day. Their off day was not off. And it required just a lot of collaboration, getting schedules worked out, all those kinds of things. So the legwork that went into it, and the final product was really cool. Athletes, they had their pictures up in the local Dick's Sporting Goods on the walls. They were on the banner pages on Dick's Sporting Goods website. Just a really cool, unique thing that they probably never thought they'd be a part of, that kind of thing. And then we got one deal that we're working on right now. Can't go into details for our softball team. That's very exciting. It's really cool that we're looking forward to coming together here, hopefully by January, that I think the athletes are going to love. So those are just a few. I could probably go on and on.
Yeah.
You love different deals for different reasons.
Yeah.
It's just the opportunity to help the athletes and help the brands and businesses bring something together, bringing a vision together in general. It's cool to see. So yeah, we could talk about that for some time.
You got me hooked with the softball deal. Now
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when it's done. And we're
on Twitter and turn push notifications on. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited to see that. My last 2 questions. If I were to come to Columbia, what's the one can't miss spot that you'd take me to?
I'd probably take you to Hendrix. Hendrix is a place that I go probably too much. Great food, rooftop bar, know the people there very well. And just, some of the best food in Columbia, some of the best drinks in Columbia. And then depending on time of year, we'll go hit up a Gamecocks sporting event, whoever's playing that day.
Okay. I'm holding you to it.
Right.
My last question for you, if people want to connect with you and talk more about what you're doing at South Carolina, where's the best spot for them to find you?
My email is on our athletics website. I'm on LinkedIn like everyone else, of course. But really, any of those two, happy to connect with anyone. I enjoy talking with people in the space, but also people that are looking to get into the space. I was once that person looking for opportunities, looking to learn. So anyone who's looking to get into the space, happy to talk with them as well, and kind of how I got to where I am, all those kinds of things. But yeah, my email is available on the staff directory, and then also LinkedIn, connecting there, sending me a message, whatever works.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. And let's go Gamecocks.
Of course. Yes. Go Cox.
Thanks again to Joe for joining us and telling us a little bit more about his work at South Carolina. If you'd like to connect with me, Sterling Randle, feel free to do so on LinkedIn or Twitter. Also, check out NIL Newsstand for more episodes, or Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more about Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern at hpldigitalsport.com. You can also find Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern and NIL Newsstand on LinkedIn. I hope everyone has a fantastic day.